Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. We are at the beginning of a unpredictable year. We don't know what it's going to look like, but we are awake and ready for that, for whatever comes in terms of blessings, of trials, opportunities for our growth. It's never easy to choose, to make your choices on the first day of the year, but I would like to touch on the theme of fear, because I have noticed with this year that many of the things that we would like to be able to do, the way in which we would like to act, are blocked by this sense of fear within us. And it expresses itself in many different ways. It is an obstacle when we want to be lovely, kind, gentle towards everyone, as all the great masters teach us, to be able to love unconditionally. And then come these immigrants, people that have maybe a difficult character, and we find it difficult because within us there is a fear of the unknown, which we don't know in many people, in other countries, and so forth. We also find it difficult to be able to feel within us a strong, deep peace, inner peace, when trials come, like the trials we've had this past year. Therefore, what we need is the possibility to live without fear, because fear creates turbulence. It doesn't bring us inner peace. Also, for the changes that are gradually, well, there are many changes. Many people in the world now understand that after this pandemic, it will not be as it was before. There are many things that have changed, and other things that will change and will continue to change in this world of ours. These are changes that we must do in ourselves. Therefore, also we need to change things within. Those who have attended the course, and those who will of the past week, and who will be with Sahaja about the new year, it's the whole theme is about change. The changes that we must be able to create in order to be able to move on this year 2021, with successfully. Success means inner success, and success in our lives and in our relationship with other people. So this depends on the degree in which we manage to live without fear. And I believe we know, you are following Ananda, you who are following these masters, you know that there is a reason, for only one reason for fear, and that is lack of knowing who we really are. And that search, that research is one of the basis of the teachings of our masters that Ananda shares with others, and that is that the techniques that enable us to discover and live and experience that which we really are. And this is the key to overcome fear and to be able, in whatever moment, whatever circumstance in our lives that life can bring us, to be able to act in a positive way that helps others and ourselves, that gives us the opportunity to go beyond, the possibility to go beyond or fear, or to go through the fear and the experience, and then arrive at the understanding of what God really wants for us this year. And that is the capacity, the ability to accept for ourselves and for the world that which comes, and to be able to have the courage to face, not to feel that we want to hide away, that we want to isolate in some corner until it's all past. The courage to be able to face, and the faith to know that, as we said in the beginning, what the rainbow teaches us, and it says everything will go well as it has to go. When we are centered, when we are in our meditations, and we manage to touch and experience that which we really are, then we know that everything will go well. When we have an experience in meditation, focusing on the spiritual eye, bringing all the energy up to that point, then we can have an experience of light, of the light within us that comes up, that then explodes in our consciousness, and that makes us understand through experience, the experience of deep meditation, that this light is always present, always with us, and that in the world, all the world needs is channels of this light to be able to manifest it, to manifest this light also in our lives. And now, we are now more able to do that when we have experienced that light within ourselves. And the same when we can, through a practice of listening, we can practice listening, going deep within, and learn to listen to the inner sounds. Then we can experience in those meditations the power of Om, that power, that strength that supports the whole universe, and that will never go away. It's not that when the world suffers or goes through trials, that vibration of Om that supports everything manifested in the universe will always be there, present. When we go deep in our meditations, we can experience the power of Om in every cell of our being, not just a sound that we hear, but a vibration that we experience, that we feel. The power of that vibration is supporting us, and we are always therefore supported by this power that comes from the Spirit and manifests in each atom of creation. And in our practices, meditation practices, we can experience an expansion then, an opening of our heart. An experience that gives so much joy and that makes it possible for us to understand what it means to love unconditionally. When we experience in our meditations this expansion, this opening of the heart that comes when we offer ourselves completely to the Guru, to the Divine Mother, to God, in that self-offering we can experience the power of love. That is very important for each one of us. And that love that we try to share with human beings, with animals, with nature, with our earth, this love of that which in the end we experience in our lives takes us closer to that love that God has always had for us and will always have, and that will never go away from our life, as never, if we but open up our hearts. They're ready to receive and share. This year, 2021, there will be many opportunities to be able to go beyond the limits imposed upon us by ourselves, and to be able to go beyond. That takes courage to be always, every day, 10 minutes, 30 minutes a day, or an hour or longer, with your highest self in your practices, your spiritual practices, to be able to contact the source of power that is already within you, to be able, that helps you to overcome whatever situation presents itself. Every small or big fear can be overcome through that strength. The possibility is there. You are unique. There is no one that is exactly like you. And that individuality that you want to discover and express in the new year must be cured, must be cared for, must be helped to be able to express itself in ever more perfectly, ever more powerfully. And your spiritual practices are the thing that will help you the most to do this. I would like to end this message with the last words of Paramansa Yogananda in his book Ādhava Yoga Viva Yogi. You know it. And I think 95% of you will know it. And these are the last words that he writes after he has passed the whole night with his first disciple, Dr. Lewis. As he writes about world colonies founded on a spiritual basis, and he writes, far into the night, the first he discussed with me the need for world colonies founded on a spiritual basis. The ills attributed to an anthropomorphic abstraction called society may be laid more realistically at the door of every man. Utopia must spring in the private bosom, before it can flower in civic virtue. Man is a soul, not an institution. His inner reforms alone can lend permanence to outer ones. By stress on spiritual values, self-realization, a colony exemplifying world brotherhood is empowered to send inspiring vibrations far beyond its locale. And then he speaks about the one he writes. He says, August 15, 1945, close of global war of the world, Second World War, end of a world, dawn of an enigmatic atomic age. The Hermitage residents gathered in the main hall for a prayer of thanksgiving. Heavenly Father, may it never be again. Thy children go henceforth as brothers. Gone was the tension of warriors. Our spirits purred in the sun of peace. I gazed happily at each one of my American comrades. Lord, I thought gratefully, Thou hast given this monk a large family. And I would like to stress that this family that Yogananda speaks about were not the people who were there at that moment, not just those who today follow his teachings and try to live them every day. His family is humanity. As he always said, we must expand our capacity to love and include our family, the whole world into our family, the whole creation, the whole universe. It's a great challenge, but this year it is what is being asked of us, to expand, to grow, to transform ourselves, to be able to give to the world, to be for the world channels, ever more perfect channels for these great gifts of love and light. And I wish you a year filled with light, ever more light.
Do we need a moment to switch gears? Happy New Year, everyone. Wanted to start with a story that those in the community have heard before, but when I was, I think, 5 years old or in kindergarten, we were given a project. The project was to draw. I drew a fish. We were supposed to color the fish, or color whatever we drew. I chose the fish, and so I drew what a 5-year-old would draw as a fish, and I put lines and squares, and I started to color each little square with blue, silver, and gold. I wanted the fish to be brilliant and shiny and bright. And and what I still remember vividly is that when the teacher said, okay, now let's put our things away, it was 45 minutes later, but I had entered into what yoga, what Patanjali calls a state of mental absorption. I really had blocked out everything in the classroom, everybody around me, and I had become absorbed in coloring these little squares. As I got a little bit older, my mother began this process of, after dinner, staying at the table and doing the rosary. And as a young boy, I was okay with that when the weather was bad, and I didn't care about going outside. In the summer, that was difficult because the day was warm, the night was, there was still light. I could go up and play with my friends at the park or in the woods, and maybe talk to the girls. And so, but what I found was that I had a devotional nature, and at a certain point I took the rosary seriously, and I prayed the rosary to the point where, again, I got into this space where it became meaningful because I concentrated so deeply that I shut out the rest of the world, and I was only in that prayer. So now, past many years forward, and I find this path, and we have meditation practices, and we have our Hang Sa and our Om, and we have our Kriya. And most of these practices, of course, tie our breath to a particular practice, and it's repetitive. And there too, in my Kriya practice, I've found what Yogananda said, I found to be true, is that we, in order to open the windows, the inner windows of realization, we need to first learn to close those doors of outer distraction, and that's what meditation helps us to do, is to open the inner doors, but we have to first close those outer doors. And these practices are, I consider our path a little bit like a sandwich, that God is in the middle of the sandwich, but we have meditation and our practices on one side, we have service on the other side. Both of those we try to pick up by our devotion to God, so our spiritual practices need our devotion, and so does our service. My hope, and what I would like to encourage you all, is that we take this year and we commit to profoundly concentrating on our practices, on our spiritual practices, and especially our inner communion, because we're not really, when you look at what we're facing today, we're not really seeing the road ahead as a bright and shiny road yet. There are definitely obstacles in front of us. But what I hope that we can do, not only through Ananda and our teachings, because we are here to help you, our members and friends, and I think we're here actually to be a model also. But what I hope is that we can help people realize that you don't have to be victims, that we can be masters of our destiny if you include God in your life, and if you understand and see what's happening around, and we act from courage, attunement, intuition, and not from fear. It's very important we're not victims. I'm a little surprised when I see the news in America to see food lines, people lined up because they don't have enough food, to see the wrangling in the government because they can't seem to allocate money. People are in crisis, and there are solutions. There are very practical solutions that we'd like to help you with in this new year, but especially there are solutions on how to be attuned and how to tune in so that we open ourselves to guidance and to right action and the right thing that we can do. I would like to read just a few things that Yogananda said in the 40s, because they're very, very applicable now, and I'll explain more after, but I wanted to just help you to understand, because remember in the Bible where I believe it was when Jesus said, "Eat my body and drink my blood," and the Bible says after that not so many people walked with him anymore. It's a little bit humorous the way the Bible says it, but it was a hard teaching. Well, in the same way, I admire Yogananda's courage in the 40s and 50s, because what he said was just after the war, and the 50s especially were roaring back with strong economy, and there was the baby boom, and America and the world basically was at peace. And so there was a whole different attitude, and yet here's what he was saying, and he was saying it, I believe, more obviously for us than the people there at that time. But he did say, at some point after I am gone, you will know all I have tried to do for you. If you follow my advice, you will one day be very grateful for it. A great crisis is going to come, a crisis greater than it has ever visited this country. He's talking in America, but as you hear later, he's referring to a crisis in the world, a global crisis. When the false affluence collapses, there will be millions without jobs. Then what will you do? There will be changes in the financial system, and you won't like them. You have no idea how the changes will affect you. How can you meet the world crisis that is coming? Humanity has to go back to the land. It will be so. If you think it won't be, you will find you are mistaken. You do not know what terrible times you are going to face. And in these colonies, if you grow food, and you have health and happiness, my dear, what do you want money for? And this is very interesting. Money will be made useless. There's a lot Yogananda said. There's a lot more he said. There's a lot more I could say. And we will, in this coming year, we will be helping those who are interested in this. But I want to finish with this last quote from Yogananda. So remember the plan of colonies, and it cannot be done without brotherhood. So I know that most everybody hopes that the virus will pass and that economically everything will come roaring back. But if you think about it, already we've seen that they're forecasting maybe in another 10 years there's 9 billion people on this planet instead of 7 billion. What Yogananda's message was is simply that the system we created doesn't function well. And it always marginalizes a certain percentage of the population. We're in the period of a great transition. And that transition is actually for the best. But a transition can also be painful depending on your point of view. Shivani, in this course that she's just finishing, I don't know if she did it this year, but normally she had in her workbook at the end a wonderful poem by Yogananda. And in this poem, Yogananda is saying that how the wind can seem violent and the ocean can also seem forceful and powerful. But then there's a voice that comes and says, "Hello, playmate." And once you know that you're with God, and once you know that once you have this attunement, as Kirtani said, once you start to live for this light, and once you realize this is God's dream, then you can play with God. Even in what seems terrible in the world, you stand centered amongst the crash of breaking worlds. That was Yogananda's message to us. Stand centered amongst the crash of breaking worlds. We are not victims. In this time, in this community, in this last year, we have known more harmony. I believe possibly the whole community has experienced more joy, more the sense of brotherhood, because we all had to make a change. Our economic system changed because guests couldn't come anymore. So we immediately went back to the land. Everything began to change. When the mind is flexible, when you have it in your mind that there is attunement and that we are not victims, that there are always solutions, then you can feel joy in God. And then you can stand centered amongst the crash of breaking worlds. So I do wish you a happy new year. I think it's full of interesting adventure and maybe challenges, but those challenges should be met out of or from a spirit of adventure. So I hope that you take your tools, the tools of inner communion, of our practices, and that you go deep in that attunement this year, so that you can feel the guidance on how to move through this world of transition. The governments will be changing, the financial systems will be changing. There are huge, huge problems that will have to be met with very creatively, and I think we will see changes in the financial system, changes in work. European community forecasts 14 million Jobs may never reappear. But it needed to change anyway. So let's pick it up from that for the new year. We're in a great transition that needed to happen, and we will ride that wave, and we will be instruments of centeredness and creativity to bring in this new world, this new time. So, Happy New Year. God bless you all.